Hello, everyone, and welcome to what I hope to be the most exciting panel you'll see here at HEDNA. And as you all know me, I am April Key. I am on the board, and I'll be having this conversation with some of my three esteemed colleagues, and I'll let them each introduce themselves.
Shall I start?
Yes.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kalina. I'm working for Giata. I'm the Director of Business Development, working with the company since 11 years, starting in sales, then leading the sales, then moved to business development. Have over, oh my God, I don't even want to say this number, like almost 20 years of experience in the travel industry with airlines, travel agencies, then moving into travel tech, and once in the travel industry, you will never leave. This is, it's proved.
Hi, everyone. I'm David Sgroi. I'm the Vice President of Sales at Leonardo. I've been with Leonardo for 12 years, and that's it.
That's short.
Yeah. Kalina set me up nicely. So.
Come on.
Hello, everyone. I'm Eddy. I look after the partnerships with travel technology companies, and I'm with Booking now for 7 years, and also 7 years in the travel industry. So I have probably the least of experience in that side. So just to be clear.
I won't say how many years I've been around. But anyway, let's dive into this. So content is one of those topics that always seems to make its way to the HEDNA stage in some way. And I think when we were talking about this, even the idea of this panel with Leanne, we wanted to talk about, well, how is this different? And one of the things I said was that there's always been this conversation in the past of static versus dynamic content. And I made the point to say that given COVID, everything is dynamic. And a good example of that is the pool. The pool at the hotel, that's driven by if we have the staff that's going to be on property to make sure that that pool can be open and maintained. And that's a situation where in the past, it might have been static data to say that hotel had a pool and these are the hours, but now that's something that's changing. And that relevancy and timeliness that we need for content is changing. So with that, I have all of my questions all loaded up, and we'll get started as soon as my phone recognizes my face. And I'll start with my question for David. So thinking about that all content is dynamic at this point. For you at Leonardo, can you comment more on that? Have you seen the content needs and requirements change from hoteliers, from channels?
Yeah, I think it's changed for both. So I'll start with the hoteliers. So, I mean, when it comes to visual content predominantly, things do change fairly often. But what we've noticed is that ask for more of the structured content. So the textual content, amenity information, and ensuring that that's updated in real time as well. Preferably real time, obviously, based off of the channel. I think COVID caused a little bit of an issue because a lot of the brands did lose talent, that some of them never came back. So most brands are looking for an approach where it's a one-to-many. They can update something without having to go into numerous systems, which gives us the unique opportunity, obviously, to connect our system to other technologies that the hotel brands are using. And
I think one of the things we were talking about in that is sort of frequency of updates. I think in the past it's been 30 days is acceptable to tell a channel, come back every 30 days and update content. But we're seeing that that frequency itself needs to change, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think any new channel that Leonardo works with or even Ice Portal, the thought on our end is that they should be updating in virtually real time. Now, the reality is when you've been in business for 20 plus years, you have some connections that have been built that are unfortunately still on that 30-day time frame. And then having to go back to them with obviously their strict timelines and get them to rewrite to a new API, but the plan is for everybody to be in real time. So when the hotel goes and updates an image or updates some textual content, that flows through predominantly to every single site that it can in real time.
And yeah, and that's definitely important. Like you said, with everything being so dynamic and everything changing, a good example of that is like hotel announcements. And when COVID was high, of course, you needed to know whether or not there were specific standards and things that were taking place at the hotel. So the relevancy and the timeliness of data just became all that more important. And I think that's one of the things that have changed as we've moved out of post-COVID. I'll say post-COVID, but in a post-COVID world. But also we started to talk about, well, if we're trying to send out all of this information to all of these different channels as frequently as we are, this idea of content parity came into the conversation. So I'll turn it over to you, Eddy, and really talk about, well, all channels aren't the same. How does content parity now become a part of that conversation?
Yeah, so content parity, I think we earlier referred to content parity, rate parity. I think those two things are slightly different. And as David was saying, if you look at the dynamics of the content that you need to have at your source, it's different than exactly the information you show on your front end. So if you look into all the different channels that are out there, they also cover all kinds of unique customers. Mm-hmm. And of course, a customer, a traveler, is shopping around using different channels. At the same time, you would like to have your hotel or any accommodation at least to be seen as similar on all these channels. Mm-hmm. If it's different, that's a problem, because then you're actually selling a different product. Mm-hmm. But it starts with the base of the information that you need to have, mm-hmm. that needs to be accurate and probably in real time. And that's where also, going back to the topic, why standardization matters, content distribution versus marketing of content, those are two different things. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if you give the opportunity to all the channels to try to unlock what's important for their customers, then you can still use the same base data. Mm-hmm. But the way you describe it is completely different. That also helps for, in Booking's case, the way we are creating content is almost all automatic. Mm-hmm. That allows also to do translations automatically. And that brings you in touch with a certain type of customer that you probably would not have yourself if you can't do these translations. Mm-hmm. So content parity, probably it's important. Mm-hmm. If you look into the standard things that are related to content. Mm-hmm. And that the amenities are, that's all true what you find on the site, because otherwise it will be a different product you're selling. Yeah,
and I think what we kind of touched on with content parity, and I'll play double duty as moderator and hotelier representative, and to say that I think when we were talking about this conversation, I said, it's on the hotels to give you guys the facts. I'll give you the facts and tell you that there is a pool and all of these different pieces of information. But to your point, yes, that in that sense, we need parity, that everybody knows there's a pool. Everybody has a great picture of the pool, all of those things. But I think one of the things I said was how you sell that pool to your customer, I don't care. Because I think, at least, and that's my personal opinion, that, if I give Booking.com this information, they know how to talk to Booking.com customers, just like Expedia knows how to talk to their customers. So however you want to market it and make it sexy for the customer, do that. But I'm responsible for giving you the facts. So with that, you talked about this, but I'll shift the conversation over here to Kalina. Content for marketing versus content for distribution. That is kind of the crux of what we're talking about today. Can you make that distinction for us?
Well, actually, when we talk about distribution, marketing, content, there is one major difference, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So content for distribution is a targeted sharing of content, which doesn't mean that content must be different. But it can be highlighted. Distributed content can be highlighted. Mm-hmm. And this is what you just mentioned. This is into the B2B word for me. Mm-hmm. And what Booking will make with the highlighted content is absolutely their job. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to marketing, I mostly see marketing on the hotel side, mm-hmm. because marketing is promotion. Marketing is all about brand awareness. Mm-hmm. It's all about advertising.
Our tone of voice,
exactly,
all of that, yeah.
Social media. How do I want people to see and understand my brand? Mm-hmm. And when we can get a healthy mix of both the distribution and the marketing content, I think we're on the best way.
Yes, yes. So I guess this is kind of for both Eddy and Kalina. Both of you guys can chime in on here, but all content being dynamic and then appreciating the nuances for distribution content versus marketing content. Where do standards come in all of this? Because there's a lot of complexity around that, because when you talk about the marketing part of it, those are those long descriptions and things of that nature. But Eddy, you probably want to receive all my attributes so that you can do what you will with them. So where does standards come in with any of that?
Shall I?
Yeah, sure, go ahead. You started to touch on my favorite topic, so yeah.
So, standards starts actually with inventory data. Mm-hmm. My favorite example, and probably the most popular one, hotel name. We all know how often channels are showing the same property under a different name. And this is not because they don't have the information, it's because the information is deleted because there is no one source of truth. And when we talk about standard, once again, we don't talk about showing the same content everywhere in the same way. When we talk about standards, we talk about consistency, content consistency. We talk about one source of truth where I can just take a look, I can check, and I can be sure that the information that I receive is updated and accurate. This is the standard at the end.
Yeah, so I think there are two things, and you alluded to that earlier, is that there is a responsibility to at least keep your data up to date.
Yeah.
And that it flows through the systems in real time. Because if there's a 30-day delay, who's to blame, right? Is it on the channels that are just marketing it with the wrong name because it was not updated? At the end of the day, as an accommodation, you would like to kind of be in control. So I think that's one part. The other part sits in how do we actually just get to all these definitions? And if I look into all the different accommodations we are integrating with, also with our channel managers and PMSs, it's very complicated for particularly tech companies to kind of get all these different elements together. Because what one calls a room type, for the other is it a room something. How do you bring that all together? And I think the standardization starts with first having a common language on the different records that are actually just stored in a most likely central repository, but we all agree on the definitions of it. Because that ultimately makes it easier to also go to a real-time data share if all of it is the same. So that's where, if you ask me, where standardization comes in, is aligning on the definitions of what's in all these records. And that there is an external association, something that helps out to kind of maintaining it. If there are new attributes come in, we talk about attribute-based selling later, I think, but that you make sure that it's in a controlled environment, that new attributes are being added so that everyone can make use of it without any questions or hassles or whatsoever. Because with all these attributes, ultimately you can market your property in the best possible way, and the channels can as well.
And I think when this conversation about standardization, it's not just with content, it's in literally every conversation I think that Eddy and I have. It's his favorite topic. But we had actually tried to tackle onboarding and switchovers. And that whole conversation of standards of the content and how it's passed became a huge part of that conversation. So that need for standardization really takes us to a lot of places. And you started to talk about ABS, which is a huge topic for each of you. From Leonardo, who's distributing all this content, how do you see ABS impacting all that each of you are doing? That's a big question.
It's a good one. It's a good one because we had a couple of presentation discussions about this topic today. And from what I'm hearing, ABS is mostly used for the after-selling process and very often on a room level. And I'm like, okay, but actually ABS can be used on a pre-sale because we use attributes for filter options, but we don't use the full capacity of the filter option because let's assume I'm looking for a wellness hotel. Why not highlight it after my filter the attributes that are for the wellness part in the specific properties? Why not highlight it special offers and services that I will get in the wellness area of the property? I'm just receiving, as a standard normal user, all the information about a hotel, and wellness is somewhere on the bottom, whatever it is, but it's not highlighted to be. So how can I really realize or recognize, oh, this is the best property for me? And then it comes to how we use attributes. We have to learn to be careful with attributes because wellness is not always wellness. And this is where complaints can come. Right? Because only to have, like, I don't know, just a little massage studio or whatever doesn't make a property a wellness property, right? So we have to be careful with this.
David?
I think it gives us a unique opportunity to dance a little bit more with our partners.
To dance.
Right? There you go. It gives us the ability to get more involved, to plan with our hoteliers a little bit more. And then in the situation we're in, to then plan how we're going to help distribute that content to our channel partners as well. At the end of the day, we just want to make sure that what we do is we understand the needs of the hotels first. We understand the needs of the channel before sending that content over.
Yep.
And that we actively help you build those products.
Yep.
Because if we don't understand it and then we start receiving these attributes, then what do we do with them? So at the end of the day, it's beneficial for a technology company like us because, how do you stop working with us when we're so engulfed in your product?
Eddy, any thoughts?
Well, maybe just one thought, which when we talk about attributes-based selling, you can talk about, let's say, how you market a specific room with what's in it, a hotel with amenities. You can also call that attributes, right? Again, it starts with, let's say, what's the definition? At the same time, if you do it in the right way, there's an opportunity for upsell. So you are clear about what are the basics of a certain product and what does it take to kind of get to the next level of product. And again, going back to if we are clear about what attributes we are talking about, it makes it easier for everyone to kind of just do upsell. Selling this larger room, selling this bigger TV, or whatever you want to do, because there are multiple varieties of what you can do with attribute-based selling. But that is a component that's probably, I've heard this a couple of years ago as an idea of what you can do, but we don't talk about it. It's now more, how do we get the basics right? And we're still talking about the basics.
Yeah. We're still talking about how we get the basics right. We still are. And I think all of this is, we talk about standardization. I think one of the things that came up in our conversation was really talking about AI, which is everybody's favorite topic, and how it relates to content. And ABS is definitely something that could be further taken into the future with AI. But one of the things that came up in our conversation was about generative AI. And I think, Eddy, you said it good. You said, was it bad content? Or what was the phrase you said?
Well, so if we all think that AI is the holy grail for everything, then probably we need to rethink on how we actually feel like what the value it's going to bring. Because at the same time, AI can do a lot, but if you still use that on the basis of wrong data and wrong information or outdated information, you also get the wrong outcome.
Yep.
So the question is, where do you get this information? So where AI can help potentially is, if you say, with the example of the pool, if you have this on your website that the pool is closed because of maintenance, let's say AI can help to kind of get that information in so that you can actually share that amongst your different channels. That's where AI can help. But if you don't do that and there's no other way to kind of get that information, then how does AI know that the pool is closed? It doesn't.
Yep.
Right? So it still starts with having the right information that you're using to kind of do great things, where AI definitely can help.
David, Kalina, any thoughts on AI?
Yeah, I think AI is a little bit of a pain in the butt for us specifically, just because the hoteliers give you the content the way that they'd like it distributed. You send that content off to a channel partner, and I think one thing we have to remember is like 70,000 OTAs in operation at this point, and everybody's trying to play with AI, and then they take that content and trust an algorithm in some cases to serve it up in the order that the hotel didn't send it over in, whether it be putting a picture of let's call it a bathroom or something first, based off of what their AI tells them. So I do think it's good for some things as well, and I think it's obviously the way we're going, but you do need that kind of middle ground to police it and make sure that things are still the way that the hotel wants them to be sent out. So.
Absolutely. And to wrap up this conversation and end it on a hotel note, one of the things that I had kind of talked through, and Eddy kind of talked about the example, is how do we rethink our systems so that content isn't just born of a manual process where someone at the property has to go into a CMS and actually key in something. So even the example that Eddy just gave, if we know we have certain employees at the hotel, at this property, who are responsible for making sure that the pool is open, and for some reason we know 3 weeks out, both of those people are going to be off, why can't that system communicate some level of update to say that that amenity at the hotel is no longer available, or it won't be available for those space of days? So when we start thinking about this content and we start thinking about ABS and we start thinking about all these things, let's also think about all of the systems and how AI and machine learning can help us to do some of these things in the future, so it's not beholden to a manual process to make sure that that information stays timely, relevant, and updated. With that, Any final thoughts from the panel?
I'm piggyback off what you said. I think that really comes down to your different technology providers and internal teams working together. And I think if everyone's kind of rowing in the same direction and you're paying the technology company, I mean, my boss might not like this, but you're paying us money, we should make sure that we're doing what's going to make your life easier. If that means you click a button on your internal system and that sends that through to me, who then sends it through to booking.com, then it's just common sense at this point. The technology's there to do it. We just have to spend the money and get it done.
Definitely. I think that we should stop to search for uniqueness where there is no uniqueness. And this is
Simple.
all about visual and descriptive content in its entirety. And if we concentrate on being unique, then the real aspects. What is my offer for my customers?
So not the content be the differentiator. The actual offer itself is what needs to be unique.
Yes.
Eddy?
Yeah, I think, well, the main thing is just make sure that you keep control over your own information. And of course, there are ways to kind of automate it or with AI to kind of just have this done. Content is important because it actually just shows and tells what your actual product is that you're selling. And if you don't spend enough time on explaining how your product looks like or what you get, it's very difficult for someone online to buy it. So we should not underestimate the power of and the investment you are making on the content side to really make it a valuable asset for how you actually bring your product to market via any channel, via a direct channel. That's the crucial part there.
Content is king.
It is. It still is. It still is content. Content is still king. And with that, I say thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.